right into it. I'm gonna hit the button.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm not sharing your video. I hope that's okay.
Oh, that's okay. If we don't need video, then I can turn off these
you can go
bright-ass lights.
audio. It's cool. Let it all hang out. It's fine.
All right, done.
This is very casual. I'm gonna share some stuff with you, so you can see what's going on.
Yeah, man.
Bam. But hey, everyone, back for another round of world building. Today I have special guest coming to you all the way from Thursday morning. Dead Aussie Gamers here with us today. Hello. Say hello.
G'day, how's it going? Really happy to be here, dude. Like, yeah, we don't hang out enough, I feel.
You know,
like...
it's true. And, you know, when I started doing this, because, I mean, this spawned out of multiple things. Number one, I've got to build a new world, because we're ending the current campaign. So that's got to happen. Number two is I started building it, and it became very clear very early on. One, I was building it too fast, and number two, I wanted to get feedback, but it's hard to do that with my players because there's a lot of stuff that I mean, you know, some of them might watch these, but I don't know, they're pretty long. But so, like,
we're just gonna out-generate you.
Yeah,
my players, you're all
basically.
chaos gremlins. You won't last. You know, we just need idle chit chat for 10 minutes, and they'll tune right out.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, most of them don't have the attention span for this, and I can say that because I'm pretty sure they'll never see it. But they only get the snippets I talk about on Twitter, and it's fine. But I also was like, man, I know a lot of dungeon masters, and a good amount of them I actually care about their opinions. So I'd like to actually bring them on and, you know, explain what I'm building to them and get their input and their feedback. Because, you know, what are all these people I know if not wells of knowledge and experience that I should at least have take a look at what I'm building and have opinions to consider. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, I'm honored, man. I really appreciate it. I've, you know, obviously it comes as no surprise. I was a big fan of the Avalon Knight lore and history and world and stuff. So I'm super keen to see what you've got planned.
Well, I'm glad to have you here, and let me just start off by saying thank you so much for joining me and letting me share this stuff with you. So, first of all, let me show you the world. This is the world. So far, this is my world map. So, haven't really settled fully on a name for this campaign. I called it the Countdown to Last Light in a lot of occasions, but that was more for kind of like a one-shot thing I did. This might be a different thing altogether. But, so, this is the world. Everything centers around this main area here, the Treasured Expanse. This is a new continent. That was discovered by these empires over here, and it's kind of a race to settle this place and get at its resources and that kind of thing. I based a lot of this off of early Canadian history. That was my inspiration for this, so it takes a lot of elements from that, with, of course, a bunch of cool fantasy shit thrown in. It's the idea behind it.
Nice. I think my first question is why do you hate the people of Malangar? Like, like if they're all rushing to settle, right? You look at the map here. It's like, oh, there's kind of like a kind of cool fertile land here. You know, it's like on the foothills of this beautiful mountain range. And then you've got Malangar down the south. It's like, yeah, you got to kind of navigate these really twisted, gnarly looking like freaking ocean rocks. I guarantee you there are like sirens and sea serpents and monsters and shit down there.
Oh, it's bad news. It's bad news.
Yeah.
Look,
It's like,
Melangar's had a tough run of it, but I'll tell you this. Everybody's I've brought on loves the Melangar Empire. Absolutely loves it. And
well, they're the underdog. You know, who doesn't love a good underdog? I mean, I'm Australian. Our entire nation's built off underdogs. So I mean,
it's true. and as a fellow colony, with a tortured relationship with England, I think you'll appreciate some of the elements. But let me tell you about my empires. Let me get your opinions on them. All right, so we got the Caligarn Empire. So basically, the Saskatoon and the Caligarn Empire are the two biggest players on the stage here. They kind of run the show when it comes to the Treasured Expanse. They've agreed, due to a kind of tenuous peace treaty that the two empires have, to settle the Treasured Expanse jointly. People from the other empires make it to the Treasured Expanse, but if they do, it's because they're traveling more as individuals. The empires don't have their own large presence there. I was thinking to have one of them try to establish their own presence in the giant kind territories and then try to move up through these kind of desolate lands. But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But Caligarn.
Oh, sorry. Oh. Keep going. I was gonna say the Dread Tide Sea is a large expanse between these two locations. If the Caligar and the Saskatoon are allied with with each other, does that create conflict and strife in the Dread Tide Sea? Because like, let's face it, you know, it's like, yeah, our kingdoms are at peace. Yeah, of course we're at peace. Yeah, we're at peace. We're going over here to, you know, disappear on another continent indefinitely. It'd be a terrible shame if your ship went missing. I mean, oh my God, what could have happened?
That is an excellent point.
You know, it's a very large expanse of water, and literally, like, the idea of like old grudges and stuff like that being reimagined over here, it could, like, you know, I mean, like I said, there's nothing they could really do about it. They just be like, yeah, no, we never saw them and they never arrived. I mean, what are we gonna do?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what this would be great for? Okay, you know how historically, like, when the British Empire wanted to screw with other nations without, like, actively engaging in military naval conflict, they'd like hire pirates.
Yep.
And say, hey, go get these. I think that's what's going on. I think the nations are hiring their own pirates. I think that's a great idea.
And I think that also leans itself to its own adventure. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
I mean, yeah, like you could be like high sea merchants and stuff like that and the like, or even, you know, what could actually be quite a deadly journey is not just the trip to there in order to colonize, but actually bringing word back. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Because intercepting communications would be something that would be like just so valuable as well to any nation, not just the Caligarn and the Saskatoon, but even if I mean, like I said, I'm just kind of spitballing, because Mellingar's got it so rough. It may even be in their interest to set up. You see that kind of mountain, the icy mountain ranges to the north. Yeah. So in that little pocket there, it would like not surprise me at all if there was like a pirate crew dedicated to helping Mellingar by intercepting people heading back to the mainland.
I mean, I love that idea, and I think it'd be like there could even be an adventure in being a pirate crew that's hired by one of the empires to, and like you have to keep it a secret who you're working for, because that can't get out. They're gonna disavow you whatever happens.
Oh yeah, and you could easily turn that into an Among Us game where it's like, yeah, sure, the whole crew is working for this empire, but this one guy.
Maybe you got your own loyalties. Maybe something else is happening.
Yeah. Or maybe a spy has made it onto your ship and you haven't realized. You know what I mean? Like, there's like tons of little stuff there. That's we haven't even gotten to the bread and potatoes, and we're like, look at this. This is awesome. So many ideas.
I love it. This is great. I love it when you do stuff like this.
Oh man, yeah. Look, I mean, it goes a far cry to say that, you know, if your world's inspiring ideas, then you're on the right track.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. All right. So the Caligarn Empire. Yeah. These guys, you're familiar with BioShock, right?
Yeah.
So society's kind of like that. It's super kind of libertarian style. It's all about business, innovation, free markets. That's their whole empire. The empire has a kind of government in a collection of large businesses that operate it. They're called the Golden Satchel, but seats on the Golden Satchel have a tendency to rotate on occasion based on who is able to buy them out, hostile takeovers, and just general corruption. The empire itself, the whole tenets about this is just make money, be a good businessman and innovate as much as you can. Mad scientists love this place. It's all about it. So they got the gold.
So it's kind of like almost like a like a mercantile guild that evolved into an empire.
Yeah, kind of like that. Like they're very much just all about, being the biggest business and all that kind of thing. The poorest people in this nation have a really hard time, and actually that's part of why they're so invested in the new territory, is because they're selling it to their people as a place to go to get a better start, rather than, say, starting revolutions in the empire.
Yeah.
So,
would they? Well, I mean, would they then also be shipping off revolutionaries to?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Because I imagine, case in point, the Australians were not really given much of an option to come and settle. It was,
oh no,
get in the boat. You're over here now, and this is now the prison colony where you're going to work off your debt, and then maybe you can carve something for yourself out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a similar kind of idea, but definitely, I think in their position, things are almost backfiring on them a little bit, because they need people to kind of claim land for them in this new territory, but a lot of the people that they're sending have no loyalties to the Empire.
So they're more likely to claim land for themselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's
I'm kind of getting cool old school Wild Frontier vibes.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for with this. Is very much like that. Like
nice.
I want all kinds of legends and stuff. So that's Caligarn. That's them in a nutshell. I made their military like a collection of military contractors that basically run mercenary corporations that operate as the Empire's military. So they have a kind of symbiotic relationship. The military contractors can't exist without the Caligarn Empire, and the Caligarn Empire needs somebody to defend it against incursions. So,
have you watched Log Horizon?
I have watched Log Horizon.
Is this the NPCs coming to the PCs and being like, "Hey, we're gonna give you quests now, and we're gonna pay you like the video games." And then the actual standing army is like 1 million individuals as opposed to like one uniformed military unit.
Kind of like that, but less with more like a modern military contractor is the style. But I like the thought behind that. But I separated these guys up. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, oh, sorry. I was gonna say, because that I mean, not that I obviously the idea is played in that anime, and the interesting element of it was the fact that, so just for the people who are listening, the plot of that was that a group of individuals, very Sword Art Online style, basically get trapped in a video game world, which follows a bunch of rules and things like that, where the group from the video games. You do on quests, you do these sort of things, but the NPCs basically grew mistrustful of the PCs and just stopped giving them quests. Eventually, there was this big diplomacy thing, and an agreement was made. Mm-hmm. The military can't do jack against the dangers of the world because they're NPCs. It's the way the game's built.
They're built to lose.
But they're built to lose. So instead, the heroes who had formed their own city and own town would hire themselves out and as a huge military force in order to go and, it's like, if you've got conflicts, you now have, we're not going to just send an army. We're going to put a quest up.
Yeah.
And it's going to be basically like a raid in a video game. It's like you can sign up to go to this war, and everyone, who wants to is that way. So you've got so rather than having one big commander commanding the whole army, you have like maybe 4 or 5 dozen mini commanders who command small squadrons, while the quest giver is kind of like setting objectives for the squadrons to perform. It'd be very difficult, but I think it'd be a very unique way to emphasize the nature of the Caligarn military being very monetary driven. You know what I mean? Because the person who was in charge, say, during this one campaign, might completely change because he's retired based off the money that he's made. You know what I mean? It's like, this was a successful campaign. We made this much money. And, it becomes, it's more about that. We are paying It's almost it's almost like the city is pay to win.
Absolutely. No, I love that, and I kind of like deeply appreciated that theme in Log Horizon as somebody who's played a lot of MMOs in the past. Is if you're in an MMO world and you want anything done, you offer it as a quest to players, and then you'll have it overdone because there are just people who devote their lives to it so much. But no, I like that idea. I think how I would implement it with this, because I like the idea of this kind of corporate military that they had built up with this. So their corporate military as a group is called the Chimera, and it's separated into 3 different companies. There is the Charging Ram, which operates largely ground-based troops and naval combat. And then there's the Lion's Bite, which specializes in espionage and guerrilla tactics. And then we have the Serpent Sting, which specializes in long-range bombardment, scouting, and artillery.
That's really cool. I like the slight subversion of expectations on that one, because you'd think the espionage one would be the Scorpion one.
Yeah, I wanted to switch it up a little bit, and that's
I like that. No, I like that. I like it. I like it when my preconceptions are challenged. And no, I love the names. It's amazing. The Charging Ram, the Lion's Bite, Serpent Sting. Man, that's really cool. That's really cool.
That's part of it is because of who I wanted to make the leader of the Lion's Bite. I wanted to call her Katarina Kyle, and she's a shifter. And when I imagined that character, that's like, this is my espionage person. It's
very cool. It's very cool. Do they what's the word? Did the factions become named for the people who currently lead them, or were they named for like how long has the military kind of formed in this way?
I think, it's a little. I would say that it's kind of formed somewhat serendipitously like this, and that's why they ended up calling them the Chimera. I think that these are just the names of the corporations that each of these CEOs have created. Cool.
And the last question I've got is where's the dragon?
They're the dragons. The dragons are all in the Scale Lands.
No. As in, if it's a Chimera, it's got a lion, it's got a ram. It should also have a dragon.
This one doesn't have a dragon, or maybe the dragon's a secret. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be kind of cool. Maybe the dragon is not a unit, but an actual individual.
Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But let me tell you about something. This could be the dragon.
Sorry, I don't mean it. This is going to be a very long.
Look,
podcast.
that's fine. We're okay. So when I built this all up, right?
Yeah.
Treasured Expanse has a problem. People are settling there. It's a wild frontier. They have no law enforcement for the Treasured Expanse. Saskatoon, Caligarn get together and they're like, okay, what are we going to do? We need some kind of police force over there. And they're like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to offer up people free trips to the Treasured Expanse, new lives if they go to the Treasured Expanse and become police officers. We'll call it the Frontier Knights. Frontier Knights turns out to be a colossal failure. Enormous failure. Because it turns out people willing to pick up their lives and move to another continent don't have such great lives back home, and maybe you're looking to run away from some stuff.
Sure.
So, Frontier Knights universally accepted as a complete and tragic failure. Nobody likes the Frontier Knights. People will often say in the Treasured Expanse the Frontier Knights are useless. I made the leader of the Frontier Knights a white-scaled dragonborn. And what if that guy used to be the dragon head on the Chimera for the Caligarn military, but he lost it betting on this Frontier Knights idea, and his corporation went belly up?
Well, and that would be very cool as well, because it gives not only a very heavy tie, but also maybe even this sense of desperation as, like the knights themselves could, back when they were on the mainland, have been quite a powerful thing. But like after their failure in the Treasured Expanse, maybe this Dragonborn hasn't even realized that his corporation has fallen. He's like kind of just deluding himself into pushing forward and trying to finish what he had started. And it could turn him, could go anywhere really. Like you've got like just so many options there. You could like have him be like a symbol of nobility, or you could have him be like this insane antagonist who is paranoid and like people when put into those kind of situations go absolutely bananas, right? Like
Oh yeah.
you're isolated. Like the dangers of isolation is real. It's like crazy real. And I mean, it's like the idea, like when people talk about like, hey, you know what, we're gonna go to Mars, we're gonna live in bubbles, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean,
right.
that's cool. I mean, you go mad and kill each other, but I mean, I guess, yeah, just
do
do
your
what
best.
do you. Yeah.
No,
and that's when we think about like Mars as an empty planet, not as Mars is like, filled with freaking dragons and giants and ice golems and whatever, else is lurking around,
absolutely.
So this character, this dragonborn character, definitely, I think, having that heavy tie, also sets up a nice foreshadowing if they say we don't talk about the dragon. Like we don't, like it's just something they kind of just, no, we don't talk about it.
I love the thought behind that. When I pictured this guy, I pictured him as this like grizzled old veteran who everybody's just kind of a little bit afraid of and nobody wants to talk to him. The Caligarn and Saskatoon Empire have kind of just stopped sending new frontier knights. They've stopped the hiring program in the empires in hopes that the frontier knights will just die out because they couldn't eliminate them. But the frontier knights are continuing, and they're thinking that they're recruiting in the treasured expanse to kind of keep it going. So I like the idea of that desperation of just like, no, we got to keep it afloat. We got to keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, it could even get to the point where their viewpoint changes to like members of the Knight went from being reliable allies in the quest for a new frontier into expendable bulwarks to be thrown to the slaughter.
Yeah.
In a failing campaign.
Oh, absolutely. And like this place is full of horrors. Like there's a lot of stuff, and we'll get into those in a bit. But I'll tell you the other reason that I like this too, because it also creates kind of a ticking clock. But before I get into that further, hello, Rusty. My guest today is Dead Aussie Gamer. You may have seen him in some other stuff on our channel, or maybe seen him around the YouTubes and the Twitch, because he's always doing really cool stuff.
Hello.
But I like this as a ticking clock, because the other thing I wanted to set up about these military contractors is the lion's bite and the serpent's sting. What they do is still useful to like other companies and corporations in a time when the empire isn't at war. What the charging ram does largely is not useful in a time of peace. So I imagine it as a scenario in a society where like the value of your company and your net worth defines your position 100% on where you can be and what you can operate. The leader of the charging ram is definitely like feeling like the clock is ticking on his time in the spotlight. And he's like, oh God, I don't want to become like the dragon's head. Like, right? It's like,
yeah, and I do love that idea. I do love the idea that, what would, if you began the game in the advance, you could start it off as this is a really kind of like, oh wow, this is someone to aspire to, and then the more you uncover, the more you realize, like, actually, there's a bit more to it than that.
Yeah, there's layers. I love that setup. Cheer Knights. Okay, so that's the Caligarn Empire. That's their setup. Saskatoon Empire. Saskatoon Empire is my British Empire stand-in. They had an issue. They couldn't stop going to war with everybody. Every empire in the known world was at some point at war with the Saskatoon Empire. And they went to war so much to the point that they darn near drained all of their coffers. The nation was deeply in debt and in dire straits when the current emperor was ousted. Now, he had a son who was supposed to take over. However, the people, on the verge of revolution over all this nonsense, insisted that his daughter be the new empress. So she was placed as the empress. She was kind of a lady of the people. Everyone knew her. She was often seen assisting soldiers and defending on the front lines when she had to. And she pledged herself to bring Saskatoon to peace and to stabilize the economy.
Is this a Charles and Diana reference?
I mean, I guess it kind of is. Although I didn't fully intend it.
I was gonna say, we're from the right generation for that, man. That's
It's
like, I'm
true. I mean,
it feels like I'm listening to the History Channel here.
The parallels are there. However, I didn't give Hisui a husband. I'll call the Empress Hisui is her name.
Okay.
But yeah, that's their position. So their whole thing about getting to the treasured expanse is this needs to become a trading hub of valuable goods for us, and we need to stop fighting everybody.
Which explains why their relationship with the Caligarn is so important.
Yeah.
Because if they know anything, it's how to make money.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
her whole thing is she is trying to make sure that these agreements, these tenuous, difficult to navigate agreements, do not erupt into war. That is her nightmare, and she does not want that to happen.
Okay, so so you built her as genuinely magnanimous as a ruler.
Yeah, she wants her empire to survive. She saw what the previous course of action was leading to, and her desire is to kind of right things in a proper path. However, she has to contend with a prime minister, which I haven't named or replaced yet, and she also has to contend with the leader and the owner of the Royal Saskatoon Trading Company, who I still need to characterize. I've characterized the main agent who operates in the Treasured Expanse, but I haven't characterized the CEO who operates at home.
Okay, so there's the Prime Minister, the leader of the Mercantile Guild, and her brother, all of which would benefit from her downfall.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
So she's got a lot, and the whole thing in Saskatoon Empire is, very English, like duty, honor, dignity, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So, as you know, I'm very heavy characterizations and stuff like that. That's like my go-to whenever I look at world building or whenever I'm running games and stuff like that. So I love the dynamic that you've created here with the social tensions that arise. So I've got a couple of questions just to flesh some stuff out.
Sure. Hit me.
Okay, so let's start with the first one. Are the previous rulers still alive?
Yes. The previous emperor is still alive. He's the only living ruler that's still alive.
Okay.
And of course his son, who was supposed to take the throne.
Right. Now, they're still in charge at present, but there is a demand for the daughter to be put in charge instead of the son.
No. They have been ousted. It was a compromise. There was going to be a rebellion, and the empire was in danger of collapse. And the desperation move was to place Empress Hisui in charge.
Okay. So she is 100% in charge.
Yeah. And I like the idea of it that maybe her father and her brother expected her to fail. Like, they thought they could put her into place, and then after the people soured on her, they would swoop in and be like, okay, we got it. It's okay.
Okay. So...
Oh, she's a Leonin, by the way. I decided to make it...
Oh, very cool.
I didn't make a lot of human leaders.
Okay. So, from what I understand, like, here's the interesting thing as well, because obviously with Leonin and, with their reflections being upon lions, lionesses are actually far more capable than people give them credit for, being able to work in packs to to successfully predate as members of an apex food chain. I love the idea that the emperor, the previous one, had retired and put aside, his ways in order to try and heed the people.
Yeah.
And I view the relationship between that of deciding which child to rule through the idea of dropping them off cliffs, right? Like the old additive, like a lion will drop its cubs off the kids,
sink or swim kind of thing.
Yeah. So I love the idea that in a way the emperor isn't allied with his son, but the son views his relationship with his father, and his father being like kind of the old warmonger was, sharing and reflecting a lot of his ideals, means that they're allied. But it was never the case, that the old emperor, this was a test for the both of them. And right now the daughter was winning.
I see.
Like, he doesn't agree with, like, let's focus on the fact that he wouldn't agree with the idea of peaceful trades and relations and stuff like that,
right?
And he knows that he would never make these calls while he is on the throne, realizing that he would sooner see the throne handed down to his children than to see the revolution throw him from power.
Right.
The decision to make the daughter in charge was the test. The test is to see if she can handle power, and the test was to see if his son has the strength to take what he wants. Because maybe the son, in his way, relied heavily upon his name and his heritage. That's why the relationship is there. Like, he still thinks that dad's gonna come in and throw her off once the people have had their fill of this stupid peace. Maybe he flaunts some of the authority he doesn't actually have, with little maneuvers, like marching through the streets and sort of like shutting certain, like, let's say there's a business erecting that a Caligarn butcher has sort of erected a very fair business, and the brother comes in to visit to do nothing but intimidate them. You know what I mean? Like, he comes in and orders some food, but with like 20 guards, and you know what I mean? Like, just being
to mess with them and be like, now, I like that idea, and what I like about that is I'm imagining this brother with something to prove.
Yes,
eventually
100%.
Goes to like the treasured expanse on some foolhardy campaign. To prove himself as a great warrior or commander.
And that ties things in. Meanwhile, we have the sister, who is now Empress Hisui, on the throne, dealing with the prime minister. Now the prime minister might simply be one of those, like, he may not necessarily be as war heavy and kind of grizzled as the emperor, because otherwise there'd be too many comparisons. But maybe the prime minister is one of those people who believe heavily in tradition, right? It's not right that the brother was removed, right? Like, I don't care who the brother was or what his deal was, it was his throne. So in a way, the prime minister is not sabotaging her, but it's very apparent.
He's not happy with how it shook out. Like, it's
it's very apparent he's not supporting her, right? Which of course a good prime minister should.
Absolutely.
Now, the sister, Hisui, in her way, she would also be keeping the prime minister on just to kind of also prove that I am strong enough to deal with this. Because if I just, kind of say, no, you don't agree with me, I'm going to kick you out of the cabinet, it proves that she's not strong enough to handle conflict. It upsets the balance, and I imagine it creates more unfavorable comparisons between her and her father. So this represents her father's foot, I guess, in the way, as it were. Now, the merchant guy, the guy who's head of the merchant guild, what you want to do here, and this is just a suggestion again, feel free to tell anything that I say to don't piss off, Now, what you want to do is you want to create a social dichotomy here, right? So you've got the princess in the middle, you've got the prime minister who is embracing tradition, meaning that your merchant needs to be the one to kind of be promoting change. But you still want to turn this into a challenge for the princess to find and discover who she is. So the merchant should be, I don't want to say extreme, but they should be very much like overreaching, if that makes sense, right? It's not just about creating trade with Caligar. It's about like taking everything, using whatever resources we can, even if that means hiring the Caligarans here because they work for cheaper than our own people. But it's like, well, then our people aren't going to get employment, now people aren't going to get work, and we're going to lose out in a lot of ways because we're, it's kind of almost like inadvertently and unknowingly, if she were to follow the merchant's advice the whole way, Caligar would basically just be handed Saskatoon on a plate. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
yeah. So I think that nature, I wouldn't say miserly, I wouldn't say greedy, I would just say
I would say
he has ambition but lacks vision.
And opportunistic, I would say.
Yes, very opportunistic, very much so.
And that's kind of
knows wherever the wind's blowing.
That's how I kind of envisioned these guys. Like when I think about the leaders in this company, I'm very much thinking about like South Seas Trading Company and like East India Trading Company, all these kind of things. Like I'm thinking about these kind of peoples who are just like, okay, we're basically as powerful as the government and we're just kind of establishing new places.
Yeah. And I can imagine that in his way, he's probably the most charming of the people involved here.
Oh yeah.
He or she, I don't remember what gender they were, but definitely the most charming one, but definitely one of the ones who does not respect the crown, and that I think is what's going to differentiate between the prime minister and this character. Yeah, which I think is again going to be important because the Hisui is going to have to interact with these two plus her brother as well.
Yeah, it is definitely like this huge balancing act to kind of keep all these pieces in play. Because currently they need each other, and you have to maintain that balance, because the moment any of these guys start to feel like they don't need each other, then it all falls apart.
Exactly. Like, for example, if the prime minister turns around and says, no, this is it, he then turns the rest of the cabinet against the crown.
Yeah.
And if the merchant decides not to, then you're already in a financial strife, and then having one of your major guilds kind of turn and take ship, you then lose all the whatever little resources you have. And if we have, say, the prince responsible for the military, if the prince falls out of line, then it's an even bigger coup. It's a coup d'etat. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like,
no, that's huge.
Yeah. So that I think more important than the individual characterizations, while we nut them out a little bit, is that social balance. Because while we, the GM, know how intricate that is,
right? When
you build stuff, especially for world building, you've got to look at what is the impact on your players. It always comes back to that. What is this impact? Well, how is this going to impact on the players? Like, I loved your idea that maybe the brother goes out to the treasured expanse in order to try and prove himself or try and find something over there. Maybe the merchant sort of turns around and says, hey, there's actually some really valuable resources that I want to get before the Caligarn Empire in order to curry favor with the princess, because if I return with this thing, maybe she'll give me a little bit more string to play around with. And maybe the prime minister is again trying to say, hey, look, Caligarn said that these were our borders. They're not listening on the treasured expanse. Go fuck them up. Just absolutely wreck their new settlement because it's over the border and that's our border and we have the rights to it. You know what I mean?
Go rough these guys up, make it look like an accident. It's kind of like,
yeah, stuff like that. Meanwhile, again, you've got the princess who might then say, well, look, instead of destroying the colony, let's start a diplomatic relationship. How about we try to talk to them and see about having us make a conjoined settlement, and some of our builders and our resources can be rediverted because they have already started building in the area.
Right.
And then you get sent on a diplomacy mission. It creates just a nice array of options for any GM to be able to to quest give, I guess,
Yeah.
from that level of the structure.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Mm.
All right. So the Ramvalley, I think we're good on Saskatoon.
Good. Yeah, sorry. Like I said,
No, it's okay.
I dived so deep in.
I wasn't sure that we had anything else further to go until we get to the treasured expense. We'll get back to most of these again.
Look, we'll get to the treasured expanse. I promise.
Oh,
Everyone
absolutely.
who's listening, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay. So Ramvalley Empire. These guys are ruled by a king, but the king's really more of a figurehead. The entire society is based around what you can do as an individual and what you can do as a community. The way I like to describe it is people in the Ramvalley Empire, if you say moved to a new community in the Ramvalley Empire, before you would be allowed to move in there, community representatives would talk to you and be like, okay, how can you contribute to this community? What useful things do you bring that improve the place you're going to live in? That's what they want to know. That's what it's all about.
That's very interesting. I like that. It's very it's actually quite accurate to how travel and migration works nowadays. Like, you know, you have to have, if you want to migrate to another country, you have to have a job, or you need to at least prove that you are able to fulfill a necessary
you gotta have
role,
a reason, right?
Like, yeah, you gotta have. Yeah, you can't like, I can't just get, a green card in America and just be like, cool, yep, sweet, I'm gonna live here now and I'm just gonna migrate and that's it.
Just hang out.
Yeah, you can't do that. So I mean, I like that. I like that little piece there.
Yeah, their whole thing is they're very much their history is based around the kind of legend of the creation of their empire. Is that a group of tieflings defeated an archdevil and then escaped to the prime material to establish their own home.
Ooh.
So they're very much against.
So is it a predominantly tiefling society?
I would say it started as that, but over time it kind of attracted various other races to it because they'll accept anybody who can contribute. So over time they would just grow and change. But the core tenets that they keep from that is that they're not into like rulers or tyrants or any kind of thing like that. They're just not down with it. So the king is actually more of a figurehead because the legend is that family were the leaders that helped liberate the land. So it's kind of a place of honor, and it's only ever engaged in times of war, kind of like the old Roman style. But the rest of the time, they're just like, hey, thanks. Just sit off to the side. We'll take care of it.
That's cool. Okay, so
that guy is old King Triltarch Dominus. He's been in for 60 years after his mother, Queen Fabrisia, died. He's been married many times, has never sired a legitimate heir. So that's kind of an ongoing thing for him. Since the wars have stopped, he's been pretty sedentary in his lifestyle, just kind of kicking back and enjoying the peacetime, while the rest of the Ramvalley society governs themselves, more or less. Each community has kind of rotating community representatives, and the communities of Ramvalley send their community representatives to meetings with each other to decide greater matters. They almost never agree on larger issues, except for when the fate of the empire is at stake. And then they always agree because they always come together for the greater good when necessary.
So I'm kind of imagining like the big amphitheaters in Greece with like all of the scholars and stuff like that yelling stuff out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very, very much in that kind of style. And like when the chips are down and they need an emergency, they hand it up to this guy, this one guy, and he's like, "Okay, you're in charge. Defend the land. Get things rolling."
I love the idea. I think this is probably the most fleshed out one of the three that I've heard so far. I think this is definitely like really, really fleshed out. I've almost immediately got like a clear headspace as to what this empire is like and how it works. So yeah, that's awesome. I think one thing I'd like to see in terms of like characterizations maybe
Hit me with
is someone or something that embodies that sense of individual
growth, right? Like the idea that you could, like, okay, so let's take Russell Crowe Gladiator. The idea that you could be anybody from any start, you know what I mean? Like you could be a potato farmer and then through your own hard work and trials and tribulations become, captain of the city guard, you know what I mean? Like, or you could become a champion, a great noble hero, whatever it is that, yeah, someone or something that, even if it's like say a dead hero, right? Like they're your version of Hercules, as it were. Someone who was like, yeah, no, this person actually, you know what? Let me share a story. Have you heard of the Three Kingdoms romance?
No. Wait.
Oh.
Which the history or
have you played Dynasty Warriors?
No.
Okay. basically that's the
okay, because I've like heard the name a couple times, but like in reference to other things. But please continue. I'm sure I'll pick it up.
Okay, so the Three Kingdoms romance is a novel series. It is a very, very famous one from China during the change from the Han Dynasty, and is literally it's about like how very charismatic and heroic individuals formed and forged three kingdoms that were at war with one another, and like, oh man, there are some amazing stories. Like we'll come to what my point was, but first I want to share an anecdote within my anecdote. One of my favorite stories is the story of Guan Yu, where a group of refugees was fleeing from one of the armies, and the tactician that was traveling with them says, look, we can't protect these people here. We have a small army. We are a tiny group. We need at least 1,000 more men to be able to stop the advances of the enemy army. And one guy was sent. And it was one of the guys who was like, because the leader of that particular faction had two brothers, so it was the three brothers, and they were very well known. One of the brothers went to the back lines and said, cool, I'm here, and basically held them off long enough for the refugees to escape. And he was the last person fighting on the field, and actually met with the commander of the following army, and was allowed to leave. When asked why he was allowed to leave, the other commander basically turned around and said, because that man will join my army and he has the strength of 1,000 men. And that for me was like, those kind of legendary stories.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, right? That's kind of what I'm imagining here, is like the tales of legend, the tales of lore, something there to kind of lean into. It's like this guy was like helping refugees, very, very tiny position, and then boom, like he, held people out. He didn't kill 1,000 people. He was worth 1,000 people.
Right.
The story I was going to tell, though, this is because that was the anecdote for this is what Three Kingdoms stories are like.
Okay.
If you have a chance to, definitely go check out the Three Kingdoms romances. Lots of YouTube videos. Like I said, there's a video game called Dynasty Warriors, which actually lets you play as some of these heroes in this, and it's all from the books.
No, I remember watching an extra history thing on it, but maybe I gotta watch it again. But
yeah, man, so good. It's so good. All right, so one of the characters is Zhu Shu. I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry, but and it was really funny because the same army that I was talking about was marching through the fields. All right, like just kind of like rice paddies and stuff like that. And suddenly word came back to the back lines. Why has the army stopped? It's like, well, apparently there's a fight that's broken up out the front. And so the general comes up the front and he sees this one guy who is, wielding a freaking iron bell, like this monk who's just swinging it around and attacking members of the army. And the army is like, we got to kill this guy, but he's freaking huge, and he's like,
he's got that bell.
He's got the freaking bell, right?
Yeah.
Because if someone's throwing around a freaking iron bell, you get out of the way. That's sword, right?
That's bad news. That's
yeah. So the general comes up and says, "Why the hell are you attacking my whole army? Like, what's wrong with you?" And he says, I don't care about your army. I don't care about your war. But the people of this valley rely on these rice paddy fields, and your army is treading on them with no regard for the people here. And the general looked around, and sure enough, the army had spread out and were trampling through the rice paddies.
and he was furious, not at the guy, but at his army, and basically just like literally tore his commanders who were in charge of the forward line a complete new one, and said, how dare you step on the rice paddy fields that these people need. And then they marched, literally turned the whole army into a single file so they could move their way through the rice paddy. And that monk, who turned out to be just a Buddhist priest, kind of living in the area, joined up with the army and became one of the notable officers from that army. Because he realized that even though he was terrifying and trying to conquer everything, deep down he cared about the people and was willing to make these things about the people.
I like that.
So yeah. So going back to what we're talking about with Ramvalley, is one of the biggest things I love is the idea of what the individual can achieve. And I love little moments like this, because I think the Three Kingdoms era story is filled with stuff like that, and I'd love to see a story like that coming through. Like, these are the heroes of Ramvalley. These are the people who are who are almost statuesque and almost revered for the fact that it's like, you too can one day be exactly like da 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 da.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I like this for a couple different reasons, because in the history of this, as I've built it up, Ramvalley used to be bigger. They lost a chunk of their territory to Saskatoon at the end of the last war. So Saskatoon has annexed a portion of Ramvalley in the last war. And I feel like that's very much part of a healing process for this nation, is to kind of remember these heroes. And maybe they died in this war. Like, maybe they did these things and maybe they didn't make it. But to kind of have those kind of built up mythological figures in that kind of combat situation, I love it.
But I love the idea that they're also kind of like, they're real, but they're also mythical. You know what I mean?
Right. Like,
was there ever really this
legendary
hero?
Yeah.
And it also sets you up for lots of really cool things to find. Because again, going back to what I was saying about, like, always dial back to the players.
Yeah.
Magic items, artifacts, notable like landmarks, stuff like that. Tons of things to just explore and just be able to like kind of uncover and unveil the histories, like the weapons of legacy, or there was once the man known as the untamable wall who hacked the Saskatoon army. You find a broken shield, like, surreptitiously, and it turns out to be the broken shield of this hero, and when reunited, like, becomes like an artifact level or something. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, you can come up with just infinite amounts of really cool and creative ideas there.
Oh, I love it. Legendary figures. All right. We'll come back to that. I think we should probably come up with one. Let's make that.
We'll keep going.
We should at least come up with one today, and we'll come back to it. But let's talk about Mellingar. So I told you, everybody loves Mellingar. So let me tell you about my vision for Mellingar. Okay, Mellingar, constitutional monarchy, has an empress, also has a prime minister. Mellingar society is heavily based around the reverence of one's ancestors. Their knowledge and counsel is still valued and treasured long after their death. This is achieved through the services of local shamans skilled in necromantic arts, that are able to conjure up spirits of long-dead ancestors to assist as advisors and basically continue to live with their families. I've called these live-in shaman necromancers, I've called them nurse mediums. Basically, I think of them as kind of like midwives for the dead. They're there to, their combination, like necromancers, exorcists, live-in caregivers, and counselors for the dead. So they kind of provide all these services, but they're very much like midwives, because you might, like, each town has to have at least one. And if you're very wealthy, you might have a dedicated one for your family. Is how I picture them in the society. And it's the kind of profession where you have to be apprenticed in. So in Mellingar, we have a new empress, The Emperor was killed in the last war with Saskatoon and continues to advise his daughter as a ghost, as a spirit advisor long after his death. Again, very spiritual society. Everybody has kind of live-in spirits in their home. It's just normal to have ghosts of your ancestors in your house. However, if ghosts of ancestors are mistreated or, not taken care of properly or ignored, there is the possibility that they can turn into dangerous or malevolent spirits like specters or wraiths or that kind of thing. When that happens, it's the responsibility of nurse mediums to exorcise them. It's a very solemn occasion. It's treated very much like a failure and a loss. They don't like to do it. But sometimes they kind of have no choice. Also going with Coco rules on this one. If you are completely forgotten and nobody remembers you, your ghost just fades away.
Okay, because that was one thing I was going to ask was, like, funerary traditions and stuff like that are, first of all, incredibly fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, there's something that he said about, like, if you know kind of like funeral rites and like how you're gonna how things are gonna kind of fit together, it makes it very easy to be able to kind of like look at what you're doing and be like, okay, cool, well, this is the angle I want to take this particular ritual, or this is the angle I want to take that particular ritual. I agree. I think this is actually really cool. And I can think of just so many really, really cool and awesome ideas to, like, play in this setting and play in this this particular place. I obviously I've got some stuff that I think. Let me start with one of the really here, and that is, I know that Pathfinder 2nd Edition is about to release a book.
Okay.
Which is I think it's the Book of the Dead.
Right.
And it covers the land of Geb, which is an area in the Pathfinder setting that is run by a ghost.
Okay.
A ghost is basically the king, and necromancy and undead and stuff like that is perfectly legal in that particular region.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, actually killing undead unlawfully is actually a crime.
Okay.
So stuff like that. I think when it comes out, inspiration to, like, not necessarily just rip stuff off, but you know what I mean. Like,
Right.
That's how this works. We inspire.
Look,
so I think there'd be a lot of really
everything
cool
you can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unashamedly.
Yeah.
As for the rituals and stuff like that, like, I love the idea of the celebration of spirits and honoring the dead through like their memories and stuff like that. The idea of, like, ghosts actually coming and helping people out. I think have you heard of, there's a ritual in Indonesia where they exhume corpses and dress them up and, like, clean them up and, like, keep them around the house?
Yes.
Yeah. So is that kind of like something that would happen in this place, or
kind of, like, I don't know if that would necessarily happen, because the spirit is what stays with them.
Right. So as far as the corporeal remains, it's like, like, cool, we put them in a hole and call it a day.
Like that they don't live there anymore, right? Like, it's it's treated very...
Okay, no, that's really cool. So they don't, like, once they leave their they simply no longer live in this vessel.
Yeah. They just
okay, so
they start their life as a spectral being, and then their role is no longer to provide physical assistance to their families and their empires. Their role is to continue to pass on their knowledge and advisement.
In which case, I would like to suggest a very, very potent crime in this region. Okay. What if there were like reliquaries, kind of like, a lich's phylactery kind of thing,
right?
And what if one of the most heinous crimes you can do is to soul trap people and things in these reliquaries? Because what you could basically do is you could sell them on the black market as soul energy, or or souls for reagents for magic and whatever. And here in this place, you could steal it very easily because there are the souls and the like of the honored dead everywhere, right?
Oh, and that maybe that's a huge problem that the nurse mediums have to deal with.
Yeah,
is
like basically
illegal
like
soul trade going on in the nation. Like almost like a smuggling ring.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
If a family finds themselves in dire straits, well, they sell their spirit advisor.
Ooh, yeah, and that could be like just such this like, it's like selling a kidney basically.
Right.
Like that, I think that would be the vibe. It would be, you would be going to a backstreet necromancer.
Absolutely.
You know, who'd pay you probably quite well, and you sell the soul of your ancestor, and I mean that's heartbreaking in a way. You know what I mean? Like
super heartbreaking. And
ooh.
it's definitely the kind of thing, because in the way I've kind of established how this works, that is 100% the kind of thing that like makes a wraith or a specter. Like that ghost is gonna take a hard right turn into Crazy Town real quick.
Oh yeah, especially if they figure it out or find out.
Oh yeah.
That is the plan. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely one thing to like be a specter and be like, oh, my family's suffering and stuff like that, and all this. But then if it's like, no, I don't want to go, then yeah, they turn into a specter. So the person who is like has decided to sell their relative basically needs to then do it in a way that the relative's not going to find out, and it's a ghost. It's like technically everywhere.
Yeah, it's like a surprise thing, right? You got to like kidnap them or stuff them in a reliquary or something like that. I love it. I love that idea. I think that's a really cool thing for a crime. I think unnecessary exorcism is probably also something that's very much...
Maybe a non-consensual exorcism, and you can kind of like view consent as like you need to have the next of kin.
Yeah, you need to have the consent of next of kin, and I think also like it's one of those things that needs to be like a difficult judgment call for the nurse mediums. Like they need to be certain that they've exhausted every possible options, because they're also counselors. It's their job to ensure that these spirits do not reach the point where they become malevolent spirits, to keep them as these benevolent ghosts that just kind of stick around. Rather than turning into like, spirits that run around causing troubles and messing with people.
Yeah, and I think the thing is like I think that also maybe a little later, maybe that's something. What are the circumstances in which it is okay for it is okay to exercise a spirit? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What is that point? Is it the point when they kill other people, or when they've started to kill other people?
I feel like, because the way I'm imagining the nurse mediums is that they're trained for a long time. Like if you want to be a nurse medium, you sign up to apprentice under an elder nurse medium, and then it's just years of training. So I think they've kind of passed down, like, you look for these signs, and I think the point of no return is if the ghost or spirit is harming the living in any way.
Okay.
And then
cool. And I think as long as there's a, what do you call it? As long as there's a clear idea, I guess, of like what what it entails. So yeah, like harming the living, like, and maybe even there's even like that accidental stuff as well. That could be kind of cool. Like,
absolutely.
Like let's say that because who says, and here's you're gonna get me on this one. Who says that the ghosts have to only be of people?
Right.
What if, like, a family pet accidentally bites a kid who's picking on a little girl?
Accidental problems. Then that,
yeah,
does
you know what I
that
mean?
pet
Like,
need to be exorcised?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? The boy's family or the child's family around
Yeah.
this undead has harmed my precious little boy.
Hmm.
It's like your precious little boy is a colossal douche nozzle, and he had it coming.
So, here's the cool thing about this: the nurse mediums, the few, because Melangar doesn't have like a place of power in the Treasured Expanse. The few nurse mediums who have made it over to the Treasured Expanse have sent troubling word back to Melangar. And that troubling word is there are no ghosts in the Treasured Expanse. They cannot find any ancient spirits of any kind when they go there. And that is truly unsettling to these people. That is the kind of thing where it's like the scariest thing in the world for people from the Melangar Empire is a place that is completely empty. Is that complete nothingness.
So that's very cool.
That's a little bit of
I think my question
there.
here is like I'm sure you have, but why there's no...
Oh, I can't tell you.
Damn.
No, that we're gonna get to some stuff that I can't tell you. I've baked in a lot of big mysteries
I
in
imagine.
here.
I figured there's something. This is like one of... And don't worry, I get it.
Oh yeah,
I just
absolutely.
think my world. It's just
I
stuff
might, look,
that stays close to your chest.
I'm gonna do this for 10 episodes to start, and maybe I'll get you in on one of them. Okay. Also, the Prime Minister in the Melangar Empire, I made him a fiery halfling by the name of Gabriel Larange. He is the son of a wealthy miner. And he kind of rocketed to political prominence because he's an incredible public speaker. He's very boisterous and charming. However, he's a bit of an oddity. He has no spirit advisor.
Okay.
And that has been a bit of a detriment to him, because if you have no spirit advisor, that's really weird in this society. He, on the other hand, rides by on his charisma, says that, since he has no spirit advisor, he is always looking forward and never looking back. And that's what he says to all of his detractors. He is very much of the opinion that Melangar needs a larger place on the world stage. They've kind of been quiet for too long. Their reserved society needs to kind of break out and show that they're a big contender on the world stage.
Okay.
So that's him. So I'm thinking there's probably going to be some stuff I'll do with that guy later, but that's how I want to put him. I imagine the daughter, the current empress, she's very young. She was kind of thrust into this role after her father died, and a lot of people are like, okay, well, I mean, she's young, she doesn't really know what she's doing, and they're like, okay, but at least her father's spirit is there to advise her.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool, man.
That's my 4 empires. Now, the Scale Lands is Dragon Country. Everyone assumes that at some point in long forgotten history, the land that they have had to be conquered away from dragons. Stolen, conquered, whatever. Maybe they let them have it. Nobody really knows. It's been so long. The Scale Lands are kind of the no man's land. That's where all the monsters live. That's where the dragons live. If you're going out to the Scale Lands, people just generally assume you ain't coming back. Simple as that. Because of this, and because of the fear of these dragon-controlled territories, there is a certain amount of fear and reverence around Dragonborn in this land, or throughout the empires, because it's never quite known if the Dragonborn have connections to the Scale Lands, if they're secretly allied with them, or whatever. It's a lot of superstition. So I kind of came up, like, there's a common phrase throughout the empires is, when you insult a Dragonborn, the Scale Lands quake. And it's kind of like a phrase that just means watch what you say. So that's the Scale Lands. So, the Treasured Expanse.
Okay.
Our
Yep.
tre-
No, Scale Land sounds great. I'm sorry. It's full of dragons. What do you
yeah,
want?
I mean, what do you do?
You can't.
It's kind of
you
just
can't-
like
yeah,
a
you can't-
nebulous legendary area. There's just that's
Yeah, I like it.
I haven't fleshed it
I,
out as much because honestly, that's not where the campaign I'm planning takes place.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing, right? And this is world builder. Sometimes not world building is the answer.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't world building, if you don't world build ever, it means that a lot of stuff organically grows around your adventurers, and that's kind of where I like to world build a lot. Is I like to kind of like, it's like, hey, I don't know what's in that forest. Why don't you go there and find out? And then it's whatever in that moment I feel like my players should encounter that I'm just like, that's what's in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the scale lands are definitely that for me. Like I look at that, I'm like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I've been kind of working with scope on this. Like I've tried to keep my efforts focused on where I want this campaign to take place, and it's going to take place in the Treasured Expanse. For me, the storyline I'm going to have the players play through is that they're in the Treasured Expanse, and then the empires are going to basically put out a bounty for any adventuring group that can find the eastern edge of the Treasured Expanse. So they're basically going to conscript adventurers to become explorers and go across this difficult terrain and find the eastern end of it. And then whoever makes it and claims it for whatever empire will get the bounty. So that's going to be kind of the inciting thing for the adventure. But I wanted to go to this place because this will tell you everything you need to know about how I want to operate this land. So the Treasured Expanse. They found this land. Soil, incredibly fertile soil. Vegetables and anything they plant here grows super quick, super big, super flavorful. It's delightful. Rivers full of fish, fresh water everywhere. There's all these round freshwater pools all over the place that have these kind of like upturned edges around them in different places. It's a little unusual, but most people don't pay it much mind. In the first few years in the Treasured Expanse, a couple things were learned by the settlers. The first thing that was learned is that the winters in the Treasured Expanse are very harsh. You basically need to be prepared to hunker down for the winter when it comes, because you are going to have a hard time outside of any shelter. The other thing is it's very difficult to see, and there's heavily reduced daylight when winter comes. You maybe get like 1 or 2 hours of daylight per day during the winter. And there's always these heavy blowing snows obscuring vision all over the place. And then the last thing that they learned is that when winter comes, any person who was north of flowing water when winter came disappeared. So during the first few winters in the Treasured Expanse, they had these settlers build up places north of the rivers, and they were all wiped out in that first winter. And then they tried to rebuild them. New people tried to settle them. They got wiped out again. After the second time, they were like, okay, maybe we just don't go here anymore. So in this area, in the New Haven Plains, where I've got up here right now, this was kind of the first area where people started to settle outside of their kind of main landing area. This is where they learned those lessons. So they call that place the Ghostlands now. And the Ghostlands is just filled with these abandoned settler houses and farms all over the place. From those first 2 years, before they knew that you cannot be north of flowing water when last light comes, which is what they call the first day of winter. They do not know what happens to the people. No trace of them is ever seen again. The winds come, and then spring comes, and they're all gone.
That's really spooky. I love that. See, I've always got creepy mysteries and stuff. No, oh, man, that just inspired so many things. Like, I want to go there, I want to explore it, and like, man, and here's the kicker. Here's the really big thing. It doesn't matter how or why, but you could easily handle like a chase scene that is against the very environment itself.
Mm-hmm.
That I think would just be absolutely just baller to do.
Yeah.
Imagine if you would a scenario where your players are trying to recover a special plant or an object or something, and they're in the ghost, and then they end up trapped, right? Because like the weather turns and they lose like a day or two, but then they realize that they're on the cusp of the turn of the season, and then it becomes this mad dash sprint to reach the river. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Because I mean, there's stuff up there, so like people will go north of the river during like spring and summer and that kind of thing, and even in the fall, but sometimes you don't make it back in time. It's frontier world, and it's just been accepted as one of these things. So the settling towns have kind of built up stuff around it, so there will always be one town in each region that operates as kind of the early warning system for winter. So they're always watching the horizon. They're looking for those encroaching, blowing snow winds. And when they see them, they know, okay, we got this much time. They light a beacon, they ring a bell, it's coming. Anybody who's got anything going on north of a river, you got to come home now. And not everybody makes it back because it's different all the time. Weather's unpredictable. It's weird.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking to the right person about unpredictable weather. I mean,
right?
just saying.
I mean, you and me both, bud. You and me both. I've been freezing and unseasonably warm 3 or 4 times in the last 2 weeks.
I think we recently town to like a fire.
Yeah. Oh god, you guys had a lot of wildfires lately.
Yeah, we always have lots of wildfires. We're like, and it's really fun. I always because. It's like, it's like you told me about how cold it is. I'm like, oh, it sounds wonderful. I talk to like freaking people from California. It's like, it's Australia 2.0. Like, I mean, it's like, no, look, I get that you've got fires, but do you have like freaking taipans like flowing out, like flaming taipans coming out of the bushfires and biting people? No? Okay.
No, it's not so much the aggressive wildlife.
No, that's true. Okay, so I mean, straight away, I guess here's the thing. I don't know if it's just because this is my first exposure, but the impact that you're trying to build, I think, when you first hit this land, it's a wall, man. Like, I look at that and I'm like, I don't want to be here at level 1. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like,
that's the stick. Let me give you the carrot.
Okay, yeah, go.
So, the other thing is, whole place really abundant in resources, great soil. The empires love it. They want to keep people coming here. The other strange thing they found about it, there are no other signs of civilization in the Treasured Expanse. They have found no other civilized races of any kind. They haven't found goblin kind, they haven't found giants, they haven't found ogres.
They haven't even found ghosts.
They haven't even found ghosts. The whole place is suspiciously vacant. However,
can I take a guess?
Sure.
Is this like a giant creature?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say, if that would just, for me, that would just check out. It's a giant creature. It's very fertile because literally it's soil, and like there's no ghosts here because technically speaking it moves around. So and why there's no civilizations because hey, every once in a while it goes for a dip and then just
all gone.
And then yeah, all gone. Right? I don't know. It's just I was like because there's a freaking looking at your map. I was like that'd be a big ass creature, but it would be it was very cool. So I just wanted to take my quick stab.
No, absolutely, I appreciate it. Also, they keep finding these kind of vaults. So as people kind of moved in, started constructing towns, digging farms, and that kind of thing, they keep finding these underground chambers packed with magical items and treasure.
Oh, so suspicious.
Right? And they just find them all over the place. It's kind of started a kind of treasure hunting cottage industry in this place.
Okay, but are these treasures in like? Okay, so these vaults, they're clearly made structures.
They appear to be old ruins of some kind, but they're so old and worn, it's difficult to glean anything from them.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's proof. It's like hard evidence that there was a culture.
Yeah,
or
there was something here.
Point.
Something left these behind, and it's kind of a big
and
question
something.
mark.
And something messed up. That's all I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like, something messed up. Big time. No ghosts. No ghosts is the one that gets me. I'm like, why would no ghosts?
Why are there no
And
ghosts?
the thing is that people have been... I imagine people have been in the frontier lands since the start of your campaign.
Yeah, like, I'm putting the start of the campaign about 15 years into this settlement thing.
Okay,
So
so
that's
I guess
long
my
enough
question
that
here...
there's nobody who has been born in the Treasured Expanse that has like come of age and gone adventuring just yet. But so it's primarily just people who have moved here. But it's long enough that there's a lot of established towns and people are still expanding.
Right. What happens to a person who comes with a spirit guardian? What happens to that spirit guardian if they are brought here?
That is an excellent question. I will not reveal too much, but I have put that in here. And
Okay.
I actually put it in. Let me show you. No. Where's my map? There we go. Okay. So in the Guardian Falls and the Shrouded Hills, this farm is actually a family from Melangar who have brought their deceased grandfather with them as a ghost. Along with their in-home nurse medium to care for him. That is a place that people can go. I'm gonna hold on to that as a reveal, but there are things that happen to spirits that come here.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, color me very intrigued. There's everything here just kind of on just some really great storytelling, lots of exploration, lots of places to find. I guess the other element that we'd be looking at is there would already be alliances, factions, societies that are kind of building around.
Oh, for sure.
I guess where do you see your players fitting into the grand scheme of things? Like wandering adventurers, working for a company, or on a mission from one of the empires? Like where do you see
I think
the play?
a lot of the people that are in this world are kind of independent. They're kind of frontier adventurers trying to make their way in this place. I think that this place is very much the kind of it's got that new world, like, hey, come here, if you can make it here, you'll be doing great. It's a land of opportunity. So I think a lot of the adventurers that are coming here are, number one, for there's a lot of work. I would say the corporations in both empires, both Saskatoon and Caligarn, who kind of run the show out here, are constantly hiring adventurers to explore new areas, take care of any threats, kind of keep things going. More so since the failure of the Frontier Knights, who were supposed to fulfill that role, but then we're kind of like, okay, well, they're no good. We can't
All right,
really
so
have that. And I would say the nations are hesitant to send too much of their militaries here for fear of opening themselves up back home. So I think it would also be like
a trigger. If one of them sent their military, then all of them are going to send their military.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big problem, which can funnel back to it.
And I think that's
huge issue.
I think it's
with the
important. I think that might be an important issue that the Princess of Saskatoon is aware of. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of just kind of reining that in. There's
Yeah.
small joint presence between Saskatoon and Caligarn that operate Fort Settleguard, and I also put a bunch of like island forts to kind of protect the coastline. But I would say that's the
Nice,
only
nice.
military presence from the empires that exists here. And it's a joint force between Caligarn and Saskatoon to kind of keep it even for them. It's really just both of them protecting their investment to make sure nobody else unlawfully
All right.
moves in on their territory.
I think it's incredible. I think you've come up with a lot of really that are very captivating. I still think that everything's a little bit set to level. Well, I call it set to level 18. Set to level 18 is like you know, I'm trying to find my grandma's bracelet because it was stolen off her by a goblin that pushed her in the street. You know, like that's kind of level 1 kind of like, you know, hey, this is something we do. Any trip to the new continent seems like something that either you're forced to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at low level campaigns and stuff like that, it would be like, you know, hey, maybe you're members of like a convict ship that you get sent here to do stuff. Or it would be like you are so desperate that they're paying you money that would like change your life. But like, I don't imagine that there'd be an understanding of like, yeah, hey, by the way, look, you're peasants, stay in the towns, don't leave. There are quote unquote people who are like trailblazers that go off and do this, and they're like kind of like your level 5 kind of adventurers. They're the ones who, you know, make a little bit more money. They're like, yeah, okay, cool, we'll go into the Ghostlands, we'll go and explore these new planes, we'll go into some of the vaults and things like that. But then you've got like these big kind of massive world, like kind of shattering kind of like secrets here that are being lurked there. And I know as a player, I'm like, I really, really want to explore this and stuff like that. But, you know, like there's a part of me that's like, I'm not ready for it. Not yet. But someday I'll be ready and I'll find out where the ghosts are. And someday I will be ready and I'll find out who made these vaults. And but the fact that you've got all that is wonderful. Yeah, no, it's really, really well thought out, and I think yeah, just kudos, dude. Like seriously, some cool stuff, really cool stuff.
Well, I'm glad you like it. I've been.
I do.
I've been working away.
I'm only lamenting I don't get to play in it. Just
Well, hey, maybe I'll. Like I said, I'm going to do 10 episodes of this starting in the fall, so maybe I'll bring you in for.
oh, there you go. Yeah, you could always use a guest Aussie. You know, come.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could be just the guy. It's like, hey, who?
You know, bring you in.
Hi, Derek. What are you doing in the Ghostlands?
Yeah.
Roasted marshmallows. What are you doing?
Just hanging
It's
out.
like,
So I'm actually-
it's just this dude. Just it's like, you know that winter's like a day away, right? It's like, yep. It's like, well, why are you here? I want to die. I don't know if it happens.
I'm just gonna stay here. I need to know.
Yeah. Things suck. My wife left me. I had to leave the Empire and try to start a new life. We did. She just decided to do it with her new boyfriend Gavin. And you know, so here I am with some marshmallows, like my favorite food, and I'm just waiting till the wind comes. Savage.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's right up there. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me tell you a little bit about what I started, because I'm running this. I'm running on Start Playing Games. I'm running this as kind of a test run before we start doing the campaign without revealing too much. So what I've had my players do, because we actually had our first session last Saturday. They came in. They went to go look for work in Mourner's Creek. So the idea behind Mourner's Creek is the town was established by a man whose brother settled in the Ghostlands during those first few winters. And before the town was known as Mourner's Creek, there was just a lot of families there during that first spring that kind of looked out longingly over the river to see all the abandoned farms and all the family members and people that they knew that just straight up disappeared. So Mourner's Creek has a statue there that kind of commemorates those people who were lost in those first few winters. But also in Mourner's Creek, because it's become a kind of hub for people who knew people that were lost in the Ghostlands. When my players got there and they went to the first tavern, there's a posting board in the tavern just filled with descriptions of items, rough locations in the Ghostlands, and bounties to retrieve them. Because, of course, the people that moved there and settled there, they had, like, family goods. They had items that people want retrieved, but may not be brave enough to go out there and do themselves. It's a safer job in the summer and spring than it is in the fall. But it's achievable.
Cool.
So that's what I've kind of sent them out as their first mission, going out there. I did do one other thing when I was conceiving of this. I did a one-shot for the Fickle Plains. So this was my first map of the Fickle Plains when I first did it. I altered this one up. It changed into another map. But the deal here was Sylvania, the Royal Saskatoon Trading Company representative who kind of runs the town in that place, had lost contact with some of the farms to the south. Last light was approaching. He needs those supply shipments from the farms. The frontier knights are useless, and he needs to stay in town. He can't spare town guards this close to last light. Says to the adventurers, go to the farms, figure out what happened. If there's a problem, deal with it. That's your job, go. And they went to the farm, and the first farm they went to, they found that the farmers were missing, but there was like evidence that they had been attacked by something. And I just had like an underground colony of Kruthix. Which, have you ever used Kruthix before?
Two Kruthix.
They're like weird, like bug lizards. They're just bizarre creatures, but they live in colonies. They're
Oh
like
yeah,
creatures.
I've used these things.
Yeah. So I made it a Kruthic colony underneath that was just like pulling people underground and eating them. That was just awakened by the new activity.
Yeah,
So,
I put a bunch of them in an underground spaceship, and I pretended they were aliens.
Nice. I like to add to, what is a creature that you've always wanted to use in a campaign, but you never find the right opportunity?
Oh, in general?
Yeah. Like what is a monster that's just like, man, I keep wanting to put this in something, but I can never find the right spot to put it.
A Trajunda.
A Trajunda. What is a Trajunda?
It is a giant crab turtle thing. Let me see if I can find it.
All right, so you can...
I don't know if I'm even pronouncing it correctly.
Okay. There's a couple
Right, hold
for
on.
me that is just like I can never find the right place to put a beholder.
Wherever my potty is where I put it.
Anywhere.
Yeah, just
And
like
maybe that just speaks to the fact that I'm just overthinking it.
it's like if you can roll initiative, you can fight a All right. Okay, it's not called a Trajunda.
Okay.
It's got a different name, but I'm definitely gonna find this thing.
All right.
I'll find it and I'll let you know.
You find it and let me know. But yeah, those are the kind of two quests that I've kind of run in this world. So
Right. Well, they're solid quests. I think they've got a lot of backbone. They definitely showcase a lot of what's there. Especially with the town that's been emptied, like kind of builds on that sense of isolation because you can't really go to the city to ask for help, and that's the important bit. You know, like you guys are on your own.
yeah, like it's very much these frontier places they have their own people who run them. They've got their own stories and everything. Some of them have connections to the empires. Some of them have people who like lived in the empires, but the empires are very far away from here, and if you're far away from those landing zones, you feel their presence is less and less.
Mm-hmm. I hope you have a Wendigo somewhere.
I mean, not yet, but I could probably put it in there somewhere. I haven't specifically planned one, but
I mean, there just has to be one. I mean, come on, like, what better thing to be including in your game than?
It is an excellent opportunity for a Wendigo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh, another one thing that I wanted to think about too, that I wanted to tell you about. So,
all right.
Because this land has no civilization, as far as anybody can tell, it's had no civilization for years and years and years and years and years. There are some creatures, there are some monsters whose entire ecology is built around having dungeons to live in and having adventurers go in there. So I started thinking about those creatures, and I'm like, okay, how would those creatures change in this new environment? How would they adapt? And I started thinking about mimics, and I thought, okay, mimics in this world, in this place, in the Treasured Expanse, they're not going to look like treasure chests or barrels or chairs or whatever, because those things aren't here and haven't been here forever. It wouldn't make any sense. You wouldn't catch anything as a mimic if you disguised yourself as a treasure in the forest. But if you say disguise yourself as a berry bush or as a fruit tree or, you know, a root vegetable, then you might attract some prey. So I feel like if you're encountering a mimic in this world, you're encountering it when you're foraging, when you're out looking for food. What do you think? Did I lose you? If you're saying anything, I can't hear you.
Oh, God damn it. Anyway, as I was saying for the last few minutes, no, that's a really great idea. I love the idea of the evolving ecology, but I think you could push it further.
Oh yeah, let me.
Yeah.
There was one other one I want to tell you about because it's really cool. But then I want to hear your ideas of these of these variant creatures.
Yeah.
So, it's a bullet, right? But because the ground, because it gets so cold out here, the bullet has evolved, and the kind of nose, that long kind of hard plate on the front of it, gets really hot. And as it digs and pushes through the earth, it actually melts the frost in the earth so it can move through the earth easier. And it causes these puffs of steam to come up.
Like little geysers, like.
Yeah, just like. So nice, I call them bullet steamers.
Oh, that's really good. I like that one.
Yeah, it was pretty neat, and they just do like extra fire damage and stuff, and you can just.
And it'd be really cool. You know, what'd be really cool is if they might in packs, and when they travel in packs, they follow a single line because of them they're melting, right? And they don't, they want to conserve energy.
Make it easier for the ones in the back.
So you know what they call that?
What's that?
The bullet train.
The bullet train? Nice. Love it.
Yeah. Amazing, right? Yeah. It's like that's what you would call like you wouldn't call it a pack or a horde, you'd call it a train.
I love it. Bullet train.
Yes. No, that's really cool. I love that. With mimics, have you heard of a wolf in sheep's clothing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm thinking something along the lines of a wolf in sheep's clothing, where the mimic is able to disguise itself, but instead of mimicking like living creatures, only still the what do you call it, the objects, as it were. What if they had developed the ability to copy the sound of distress?
Ooh.
So there'd be this tree, and it'd be in the woods, and all of a sudden you would hear the sounds of like a deer in pain,
Right.
which of course would attract, a predator or a creature, and then they would because so here's a little bit of logic. So many years ago, back when I was in film and television, I wrote a idea down for a candid camera video series on drop bears. And one of the hardest things we thought was like, well, drop bears actually biologically just aren't very sound, right? Like there's like you sit in a tree and you wait for someone to come along. When you're in the wilderness, that's like so few and far between. It wouldn't be a practical way to hunt, right? Like even ambush predators, it's about volume over anything else, and then their bodies adapt to like not have to eat as much if they have to like wait for prey. So I thought of the idea that what would be really messed up is if drop bears, or in this case mimics, had the ability to create the sounds like of the last noises of a creature it attacked, like in the sounds of injury and stuff, and it would lure you towards it. And because it's a wild frontier, they sound like animals right now. But as time goes on,
maybe they change and then they start to sound like people.
Yeah, and you start hearing the sounds of people. You start hearing the sounds of people crying in the woods, and they tell you to go into the woods, right? Like, and the thing is, you can even like turn that into a murder mystery, and you hear like someone specific that you know. Do you know what I mean? Like they disappeared into the woods, and you hear that person's voice because they're mimicking it.
Yeah.
It still leans into the idea, quote unquote, the mimic. But now you're adapting the idea a little bit away from the standard mimic you would find like in a dungeon to the mimic you would find in the wilderness as a more hardy predator, should we say.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's pretty sweet. Put that in my notes. I love the idea of creating these kind of variant creatures, these unusual.
Me too.
Altered by the environment monsters.
Oh, I also found the name of that creature I'm talking about.
Yep.
It was the Tojanida.
Okay. Tojanida.
And yeah, it's basically a crab bug aquatic thing. I'll send you a picture.
Oh, I remember this.
Right? I have never found a reason to put one in like ever.
I mean, yeah, where would you put this? Like it's tough. That's a tough
It's cool.
one. Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
But like every time I go to put it in a game, like, hey, you're out at coming across the thing, and I'm just like, it kind of feels half-assed. You know what I mean? Like you can't. Yeah, it's like anything could have attacked us, and it's just this random freaking crab thing. You know what I mean? Like
it's this weird ass crab fucking turtle hybrid shit.
Yeah, it's just like, well, okay. I mean, cool. Because they've got ink clouds as well.
Yeah.
So cool. Like I like the idea that they're like, like they've got like it's like almost all the like the shellfish you don't eat.
Yeah. This is like if you shoved like a bunch of terrifying ocean creatures in a blender and then poured them into a shell. Like it's
exactly. So yeah, I've been like, and I've never used it, not once, not a single goddamn time.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of like maybe a spawning pool where it's got some of these like laying eggs, and like it being territorial. I've had ideas where it's like, they have a mating ritual where they rip apart the bottoms of ships to like use as like decorations on their shell during mating season.
That's incredible.
I've had lots of ideas, but never the opportunity to throw one in.
Love it. Love that idea. What a crazy creature. I like it a lot. We'll see. Oh, also the other variant that we came up with for these ones is I call them Sickle Frost Ropers.
Ooh, I already kind of know what they are. Like the camera and chain, like the sickle ended tendril.
No, like an icicle.
Like a spear?
No. So you know how ropers, they kind of look like stalactites and stalagmites?
Yeah.
There aren't as many caves in the Treasured Expanse, so these ropers have actually evolved. They become a bit smaller, and they attach themselves to trees and overhangs to look like icicles.
So they're just tinier and
Yeah, they're
that's kinda
smaller, and they do a little bit of frost damage too.
Oh, you said fickle. I thought you said sickle.
Ah. No, I
So
did
I
say
was thinking-
sickle.
I was
Like
thinking-
I did say sickle like icicle. I called them sickle frost reapers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking sickle, like like the little blade type sickle.
Right.
So that because you know how ropers have like the long tail.
Yeah, they do have the.
We both know what ropers are. What are we doing?
Yeah,
But like
we've been around.
because it's so cold. Yeah, but because it's so cold,
Yeah.
they sharpen like the icicles
I
into
mean, we
like
could
these.
add
Like,
that. That's a great idea.
yeah, I think that'd be cool, and that also be like a double play in words, like have like ice made sickles on the edges of their things, so they do like slashing damage as well as they like do stuff. And you can set up ambushes really turn it into like a guillotine, like just have some of the like have the tendrils like lying on the ground. If someone walks under it, they just go shing.
Shing. I love it.
That'd be kind of cool.
That's beautiful.
That'd be very cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're almost good for time here, but I wanted to show you two more things and get your opinions.
Okay, let's go.
All right. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about our settled towns here.
Yeah.
So Promethean Point is the main settlement town for the Caligarn Empire.
Pretty.
It is basically an enormous shipping town, and it's run by a Triton from the Caligarn Empire who established a shipping company there. He kind of greased the right hands and made the right deals to ensure that he would be in charge of the shipping out of the Treasured Expanse for the Caligarn Empire.
Okay.
So he's worked pretty hard to kind of get to his position, and I made him the brother of the female Triton who is the admiral of the Royal Saskatoon Navy. So he actually left Saskatoon for Caligarn to start this company and switch his allegiances.
That's really cool. I like what's his relationship like with his sister?
I imagine it's frosty at this point. I imagine it's not like super warm, but also they're family and there's an allegiant, so she still has to protect his ships as much as expected of her position. But yeah, I imagine there's a little bit of animosity from that because the tenants of the Saskatoon Empire would brand him as somebody who has abandoned his duty.
On the note of tridents, are there any underwater cities?
I haven't specifically put any underwater cities up, but maybe that's something I'll play with a little bit later, because an underwater city would never have to worry about last light, and there's a lot of rivers and lakes in this place, so maybe an underwater settlement town or something.
Yeah. I mean, like obviously merfolk and tridents and semic hybrids and stuff like that are all around.
Yeah,
presumably. Or equivalent aquatic creatures. But yeah, just be interesting. Just on that note.
Oh, absolutely.
I like the idea. I like it's. I think the only thing that's bothering me is that if there are no caves, or at least if there are not many caves, that is a shit place to build your capital city, or to build any kind of city. Location wise, it traps any support into that basin, and has a open back to the ocean where pretty much everyone's traveling around. It could be bombarded from the sea by cannons,
right?
And you wouldn't even be able to escape it. You know what I mean? Like you'd just be like, "Yep, okay, well, I guess we'll take that." So, I mean, what I might even suggest is maybe there's a mining operation there. That
Actually,
if there are no caves, maybe they're digging.
They are digging. They've started digging into these mountains. So
yeah, perfect.
What these barrier mountains do is they kind of prevent these main landing towns from they shelter them from a lot of the ravages of the harsh winter in the Treasured Expanse.
Right.
For whatever reason, seemingly in this covered alcove, the rule of anything north of flowing water disappears after last light does not apply.
It's like a blind spot.
Yeah, there's like a blind spot, and they've assumed that it's because of the mountain range kind of protecting this area.
Okay.
Uh,
I
but
dig that.
I did put 2 mines in the area. They've kind of both got their own mining operation. There we go. And maybe it's an effort to someday establish a new city in that area. So there's Caligarn's mining operation, and then there's Saskatoon's mining operation.
I'd probably look at an outpost a little.
A little where?
An outpost a little closer to the mine somewhere.
That'd be a good idea. Something in
Yeah,
that area.
like that's a long way to travel with very, very big ores, and I presumably there's no or smids or something like that that'd be able to do any processing.
True.
So I'd probably look at an outpost, probably on the outskirts of where those trees are, because obviously you'd need lumber to fuel the furnaces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The rocks fall. Huh, I see what you did there.
Chad, help me out with that one.
Amusing. Do not go. It's like you will see before you adventure 2 dungeons. The first is Slackjaw Mind, and the second is Rocks Fall. Slackjaw. It's just yep. Definitely not going into the Rocks Fall Mine. What a poor taste mine. I mean, like, imagine if you were there and there's actually a cave in. Like, how do you tell them the next of kin? Like, you know, it's like, yeah, your husband died. How did he die? At Rocks Fall.
Well, why was he there?
It's just, what was he doing?
It's unnecessary.
Amazing. Okay, that's cool. I think maybe it would also be kind of cool if there were a species of something inside the mines themselves. Like, I'm just thinking, do you know what, like Zorn, you know what I mean, or something?
Right.
Something kind of alien, like just kind of living out there.
Well, I imagine it with, like, the way I imagine this place is anytime people go digging, they find weird shit.
Zorns are pretty weird, man.
Yeah, no, they're up there. They're a
bucket. They're literally a gem bucket with.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's the kind of thing I would expect people to track down. Like, definitely. Yeah, because Zorns are just like weird gem-eating rock monsters.
Yeah, and you know they're not even that. It's like, just like what the hell? They just
Yeah, sure.
And you know it'd be really funny too. And I mean, this would just be like, oh my god, it's a monster, and then it just like steals someone's like ring and then just eats it. Just like, hey,
no.
Yeah, you little asshole! I can just start chasing after this Zorn that just waddles off.
Come back here,
like,
you!
like freaking Zoidberg from.
No. No, that's awesome. So yeah, definitely have them digging and stuff. But yeah, that Promethean point would be the Caligarn's main point, and they've got the Triton guy.
Yeah.
That guy's just more or less looking out for himself. He runs the town because he has to in order to maintain his shipping business. That's his deal.
Right.
Pride's Reach, I think the way I imagined it is the Saskatoon Empire took great effort to ensure Pride's Reach looks like this beautiful, as much like a home as possible. So that when new settlers come there, they don't get frightened off. Because they want people to stay here. They've got a lot riding on this place. So Pride's Reach is a lot like coming into any other city back home in the Empire until you start to reach, just a ways out. So it's kind of a big grand place. They built a grand kind of castle, and I seeded Hisui's cousin, another Leonin lioness, who is very much just all about. She likes to adventure. She likes to explore. She enjoys hunting. She likes to be out in the wilderness. She's not about this noble life so much. She's kind of been forced into it as a favor to her cousin to ensure this place maintains. And her counterpart is Jace Walpole, the CEO. Well, I should change that. He shouldn't be the CEO. He should be the chief of operations in the treasury.
So the COO?
Yeah, COO of operations in the Treasured Expanse, specifically in this area. So he's like,
All right.
the point man for the settlements, and he operates for the Royal Saskatoon Trading Company, and he's kind of de facto governor out here, but also trying to keep Akala from, being out of her duties for too long.
All right.
I
think,
an ambitious guy.
Yeah. How does he feel about the princess, or the empress? Sorry.
I think that peace is good for business.
So practical.
Yeah, I feel like all these guys at the top figures, and it may vary from town to town. Like, you might go to a town where there's a representative from the Royal Saskatoon Trading Company who's a very, very nice, very thoughtful, very compassionate person. But I think a lot of the guys that you meet who are top people for the Royal Saskatoon Trading Company are guys that are like making a lot of decisions on a balance sheet. In terms of
have you
what's gonna do well.
Have you watched One Piece?
No, I actually haven't watched One Piece.
That's okay.
Okay.
We can't be friends anymore. No.
No,
Right.
like it's 300 episodes. It's a lot to get into.
It's definitely a lot to get into.
I had to marathon Black Clover just to find out that they're not making anymore.
Yeah, that was.
And that's because I made the mistake of watching 2 episodes. I don't know if I can do it.
Look. Firefly is kind of like the swan song of my generation. We're used to disappointments.
Yeah.
So, all right. In One Piece, there's an arc. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do you one better. I'm gonna give you a tiny little bit of homework.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Because and again, like the good thing about creating characters and stuff like that is stealing archetypes and stealing what people have. Okay, I'm gonna give you the exact.
I was talking about this when I was on Christmas break. I was like telling everybody, I'm like, during the breaks, I just consume mass amounts of content. Because it like replenishes my creative supply by just watching new shit. Being like, oh, that's a cool idea. Oh, that's an interesting concept. Oh, that's a cool character.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so Season 3,
okay,
otherwise known as Episode 196, is the start of a 12 episode mini arc. Yeah, it's about 12 episodes, give or take.
Okay.
So not too many. I'll write it down in Discord so you don't lose it.
All right, I'll put it in my notes. Watch episode 196 of One Piece.
196. Well, watch the arc starting at 196,
okay.
Right? Like, it's a small arc, like I said. The captain of a naval base that the group goes and visits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me heavily of that kind of like practical, pragmatic kind of individual. Long story short, the synopsis is Luffy has just finished off with an island in the clouds and happens to land in the center of like one of the most fortified marine bases, but no one ever comes there, right? So it's very casual, and then they blend in and like, just sort of like go on shenanigans. But it's really funny because the actual guy in charge, is just like, he's really clever and he's really switched on, but really not motivated. He's definitely he's so switched on. He's onto things,
Like he's figuring stuff out.
Right.
But yeah, there's no way to describe him properly. Like I don't have the words for it. I just remember that there was this one scene where he was at his desk, like eating food, and was really disappointed because the cook of the One Piece crew was posing as a new chef to the fort, and apparently everyone loved his food, and the main chef of the fort comes in with his dinner.
The fighter guy who tries to be a chef and he's just really good at it, but he doesn't like to fight.
Yeah, exactly. So he looks at it. Oh, how come I don't get the food that the guy made? I heard it's really good.
Yeah.
It's like, no, because yours is full of nutrients. You get to have it. And he's like, oh, why? And then he sneaks it in. And then, Luffy comes in, puts the bowl there, and he's sitting down to eat it. And as he's eating it, he's got like 12, meatballs. He gets one, he opens it, he puts it in his mouth. He looks down, he's got like 7. And then Luffy's mouth is a little bit bigger. And then he goes to like as he looks up at Luffy, he, grabs another one. And just as he grabs another one, like he looks down and he counts like 5. And he's like stopping and he's looking back at Luffy, his mouth's bigger. And it's just like this, you know what I mean? Like it's...
Oh, yeah. That's
it's
awesome.
just, it's probably like, honestly, because One Piece as a whole, like I said, 300, like 900 freaking episodes of like massiveness. I am, actually it's over 1,000 now, if I'm not mistaken. I think they just had their 1,000th episode, but that arc for me was just like, it built so many really fun character archetypes that do what I like to do in role-playing games, and that is, here is the crew. How do we make the crew look even more awesome? And they fit the perfect roles of the NPCs, right? They come across a doctor who's kind of surly and kind of the opposite to the kind of cute doctor that they've got on the crew. They meet this beautiful woman who's like the main head chef, who's like really angry because she thinks that the cook is like this like wasteful elitist prat from the city, but he's actually like I won't spoil it, but yeah, watch it, you'll see exactly what I mean. If you can get your NPCs to interact with your PCs in the same way as this arc of One Piece, you will be doing something incredibly right. But yeah, watch the captain in particular, watch the commander in particular, because I'm getting the vibes that this guy could, sort of sits in that same position where it's like, we're so far away from all the shit. I'm wearing the hat, I'm waving the flag, but ultimately, like, no shit. Like,
I'm out here on the edge.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I can also imagine him like, like when he gets guests like from the military, from the mainland, he's kind of like, just like, here we go. And, tucks in his shirt and he comes in and, this guy like stands on the deck, big military salute. Yes, no, here we are on the treasured lands. We're going to go and change the world starting now. Tell us what you've done. It's like, yeah, we got running water, man. Like
we got
took us a bit.
water. It looks good. The food's real good out here, real flavorful. That's it.
And I imagine he should who like take cares, like he palms shit off so he can just not have to do it.
Like a put upon assistant.
Yeah, like this poor little halfling.
I love
who's
it.
like, Edgar will see to your needs for the time. Enjoy your stay in the town, and we'll see. But don't stay too long.
There's a big world to see out there. Maybe you ought to get out there and see it. Make sure you settle somewhere and name Saskatoon. Okay, bye. Get out of here.
Yeah. I just imagine as well, he does like the little like fast salute behind people's back, like hail Saskatoon, like
yeah, just pride and empire. You go on. There's the door.
I imagine he also slacks off, right? Like, instead of being in an office, like being in charge of things, I imagine him like going into the streets and actually being like playing with kids. You know what I mean? Like the kids are like they've caught like some beetles, or they're like they're like playing like cricket in the streets, and he's there like the person in charge of the whole city is just playing cricket with some like street kids, and then again the attendant comes in and goes, "There you are, you bastard!" And he's just like, "Fuck you! Grab the bat and run!
Get out of here! Let's go!
Get out of here, kids!" It's like, why? We're not in trouble. Damn you, traitors!
Oh, I love it. That's a lot of fun to play with.
Like I said, I think having a character who is, especially from Saskatoon, I think it's the perfect dichotomy between the like traditional warmongering, and it breaks that. It creates a crack and a fissure in that facade, which you'll, as a world builder, will be building to your players. You'll be telling them, like, hey, the Saskatoon, they're warrior race, they're Leonins, they're proud, they've been responsible for some of the major wars in history. And then there's this guy, who's the guy you interact with or the guy you meet,
It goes against the expectations. Yeah.
Like we say, subverting expectations is always one of the things to do.
Absolutely. It's tons of fun. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it here because we're at 2 hours, and if I make them too long, they don't get as many views.
That's all good.
Is what I've been finding. As I did one that was close to 3, and I was like, oh, nobody's going to watch that one.
Yeah, no, I get it. Look, all my stuff is 2 hours anyway as well, so same sort of deal.
Well,
but it's been an absolute pleasure, dude.
It's been great, man. If I can just like input. I've really enjoyed it.
I was gonna say, if I could summarize, the fact that just so much stuff came out just in this short 2-hour session is just a testament to how much fun I know your players are gonna have being in this world and exploring what's here. Because one, I think that you are a phenomenal GM, and I think one of the things I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter when you tune in to Mischief, Puck will be there with like a smile on his face all the time, and that for me is like quintessential to the spirit of any good GM. And you do awesome, man. Like I tell people this all the time. Like, it's sometimes you go in and you look at a group and the GM's kind of like, yep, cool. When you guys are done talking, I'll get here, and then he's bored and switched off. Never on your table have I ever seen that or experienced that. And I think it shows here in this world you've built just how much you love the game, how much you love your players. It's amazing, man. Truly amazing.
Well, gee, man, you make me tear up over here.
Well, I mean it, dude. Like I truly mean it. Like, it's such a refreshing and really cool series of concepts that have been put together here. And like I said, if a setting can make me go, as a GM, I want to run here, or as a player, I want to go and explore something. What is world building if not that?
It's an excellent summary. Thank you so much for coming and doing this with me. I really appreciate, and I'm so thankful to have your input on this. It was so great to see you run away with these ideas and things, and I love that about you, that you're always so excited to dive into anything new and just kind of create new ideas and puts the new stuff out there. And it really speaks to the way that you're able to get just people to gravitate to you and create these incredible groups and all these incredible one-offs with all these incredible people all the time. So
thank you.
What? Well, hey, look, you got to get back too. It's
fair.
So, tell people where they can find you. Anybody watching now and watching after.
Man, just Google Dead Aussie Gamer, you'll find me. I mean, like here's the thing. I have my own Twitch channel, which you can find me at twitch.tv/Dead Aussie Gamer. I run tons of games for my Patreons and stuff on there, as well as whenever the mood strikes me to do something RPG related, like world building and stuff like that, I'll do it on that channel as well. I also do a ton of Hero Forge model building and stuff like that on Wednesdays. So you can come and tune into those ones. And then what we do is we actually also get them printed out and reviewed so that you can actually see firsthand exactly what you get in your hands from using it. As for the other side of it, my actual main thing is I'm a performer and entertainer who specializes in TTRPGs. So I actually go from channel to channel featuring, running shows, and even being in shows. Right now I'm on WASD20 with Nate in Rime of the Frost Maiden. I think that's the only special appearance I'm in at the moment. I've done a bunch with the dreaded GM, who's really cool. But if you want to see me at my best, I was on How to Be a Great GM for a number of years. There are a few shows with name all over it, as well as the Dungeons and Dragons official shows, Ghost of Saltmarsh, Call of the Kraken, and Descent into Avernus Blood War. Those are probably my two favorite campaigns. Definitely worth the watch and a lot of fun.
Get all that. Make sure you go watch those things.
Hit Google. That's literally what I tell people nowadays. Like,
just hit the Google and do the thing.
I'm at that point. Just hit Google, Dead Aussie Gamer. You'll find something you'll enjoy. And I've got a new show that's coming up with the Mercs of Mischief as a podcast. Yeah. Eberhard, PD&D. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's featuring obviously the Mad Maker himself. Which it's just going to be it's tons of fun. Have you listened to it yet?
Oh yeah, I listened to it.
What'd you think?
Over the weekend. It was pretty good. I think the themes are spot on. I think you guys are nailing the themes and the feel of it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think it's all in the right spot. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but yeah.
No. We won't talk about it. But be on the lookouts.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming. Follow the Mercs of Mischief and all of the projects that they do, and you'll get to see it.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you again to my incredible guest, Dead Aussie Gamer, who came by and provided me with cool ideas, and we talked about D&D for 2 hours and it was awesome.
Oh yeah.
And I guess we'll see you guys next Wednesday, where either I'll have Felix come on and we'll chat D&D, or one of my players will come and make a character. We'll see what happens. All right.